Welcome back. I'm glad that you can join us. Pete and I are pleased to be able to share a little bit with you today. A question, have you ever seen a sign that just says wet paint? It's maybe attached to a railing or to a park bench. As soon as you see that sign, wet paint, what do you want to do? Just kind of want to touch it. You want to kind of see if it's really wet. And if it seems dry, somehow you want to even sit down. And then about 10 minutes later when you get up, you hear the paint sticking to your pants as you get up. Somehow we doubt that the sign is still valid. I think it's a little bit like we're living today with the coronavirus. As I speak, as we're recording this, there's about 2.5 million cases, confirmed cases of coronavirus in the world. There's almost 800,000 people have died from the coronavirus. In fact, I read this morning there was a person who greatly doubted that there was such a thing. He thought it was a conspiracy on governments or something. He just died recently because due to the coronavirus. It somehow seems that we have a tendency to doubt things that we don't see. Today we'd like to look at a passage with you in Scripture about a person we call in English Doubting Thomas. Can you read this to us from the Gospel of John?
Mm-hmm. Gospel of John, chapter 20, verses 24 through 29. But one of the 12, Thomas, called Twin, was not with them when Jesus came. So the other disciples kept telling him, "We have seen the Lord." But he said to them, "If I don't see the mark of the nails in his hands, put my finger into the mark of the nails, and put my hand into his side, I will never believe." After 8 days, his disciples were indoors again, and Thomas was with them. Even though the doors were locked, Jesus came and stood among them. He said, "Peace to you." Then he said to Thomas, "Put your finger here and observe my hands. Reach out your hand and put it into my side. Don't be an unbeliever, but a believer." Thomas responded to him, "My Lord and my God." Jesus said, "Because you have seen me, you have believed. Those who believe without seeing are blessed."
Jesus has been resurrected. We're recording this just a few days after Easter. And he's been resurrected on Sunday morning, the day he was resurrected. He appeared to some women. He appeared to many of the disciples. When he appeared to the disciples, Thomas wasn't there with him. The week goes by, and the whole week the disciples are telling, the friends of Thomas are saying, "We've seen Jesus. We've seen him." And Thomas is saying, "I don't believe. I don't think this is true." I don't know what he thought of his friends, if they're delusional or if they're overcome with grief and didn't know that they were seeing things. I don't know. It's interesting. He wouldn't even believe his closest friends. But then all of a sudden, as they're having another discussion about this, Jesus appears in the room. And he walks right over to Thomas and says, "Thomas, look at my hands, touch my side where they pierced me with the sword. See and believe." And Thomas, fortunately, he responded, I believe. That's a good thing. And Jesus says appropriately that even more blessed are those who believe without seeing. Most of us won't have a face-to-face experience like Thomas had. Most of us won't get that honor in this lifetime. But we do have the testimony of his friends. We have the testimony of friends in the Scriptures. We have the history of 2,000 years of church history telling us of saints dying for their faith in Jesus and living for Jesus. We have, in most of the cities, in Aberdeen, Chelney, and various cities, we have a number of Christian believers that if you go and talk to them, they're willing to tell you about how they've met with Jesus. Maybe not face to face, but how they know that Jesus is alive. We're faced, like I've noticed a lot of our posts, we're kind of faced with a decision. We can continue to doubt, or if you're a non-believer, you can continue to doubt and think, well, Jesus hasn't risen. Jesus was just a nice person and then they killed him. Or you can choose to believe. The consequences are tremendous. They're huge. The consequences are, one, if you believe, the Scriptures say you get to spend eternity with the Lord, rejoicing in his presence. And it says if you refuse to believe, you spend eternity without God, suffering. My great recommendation, my urgent recommendation would be that you believe, that you understand what many others before you have understood, that Jesus is risen. Think about it, and join us again here on our next post. Thanks for joining us.